Line's good.
Never on.
Whoa.
Hard. Release.
Come on, Brent. Line's good. Got real close.
The hair high, right?
Try and hit 2/3.
Have they saved it for her? Yes, they have.
Welcome to Game of Stones, everybody. I am Sean Graham. Scott back alongside, as always. Hello, Scott.
I'm back in the saddle, Sean. Back in the saddle. How's it going?
Pretty good. Things are going well over here. It's summer, and
Yeah,
it's beautiful right now here in Ottawa. Nice, like low 20s during the day. Last night, I think it was 10, 11 degrees here as we are recording on Father's Day. Just beautiful weather.
Yeah, I went outside to barbecue last night and I had to put a little sweater on. It was a bit chilly. I liked it. It was really
Nice,
good.
eh? Yeah.
Happy to be back. Sean, great job without me on those episodes. I haven't listened yet, but I assume great job. Yeah, and I'm back and I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, good to have you back. And we haven't done too many episodes so far in the spring, and a lot's been going on, Scott. So we wanted to just take a chance here, go around the world of curling and do a bit of a news update as to what has been going on, because nothing too earth-shattering here, but there have been some things that have gone on that I think are worth paying attention to.
Yeah, I think so too. So what do you got first up?
All right, so let's start, Scott, with the European Sea Championships. They took place ending in the early part of May. And on the women's side, it was the Dutch. The Netherlands beat Wales 10-3 in the final to get the gold medal there. On the men's side, Bulgaria over Israel 7-4. So that means that the Dutch women, the Bulgarian men, have qualified for the European B-level championships in 2024. Scott, I don't recall Bulgaria ever being in the Bs. Jonathan, I'm sure, could tell us more, but that's a wonderful achievement for them. I believe the Dutch have been there before on the women's side, but always exciting when you see those C-level championships, who's getting promoted into B, and relevant for us because we'll have the beer bet. So these are teams that potentially could come into play once we get to the Euros in the fall.
Yeah, for sure. And Bulgaria, very impressive in their run to the finals. I don't think they lost. So good job by them. And yeah, the Netherlands women, I think they've been there before too, Sean, but I that's just this weird feeling I have. I have no thunder to back up that assertion.
Yeah, and really good week for them. And I think it's tough too, the timing of the European season. I don't think we've ever talked about this, that the fact that they are in the spring at the end of the season, and I understand why they do that, so that the teams that get through can play in those Bs the following year. But that's just a tough time of year to have a somewhat major competition this late. I mean, the Worlds are done. Everything else is kind of wrapped up for the season. And then we got this event that a lot of pressure on those teams because it sets up your whole next season. If you can get through, get that gold medal position, get you that promotion.
Yeah, that's true. It is a tough time, but it kind of makes sense given the context of the other competitions. So yeah, congratulations to the winners.
Yeah, and also shout out to the bronze medalists on both the men's and the women's side. For the women, it was the Ukrainian team coming through, getting the bronze medal. On the men, it was Slovakia. So there you go. Those are your medalists for the European Sea Championships.
There you go.
All right, next up, Scott. We'll come back to Canada. You'll remember we didn't talk about it too much in detail, but we did note that Curling Canada had announced the Under 15 Rockfest event last season, where they're having these campy slash competition-y events at various places across the country. The Rockfest has returned for 2025. As Curling Canada describes it, a strategic blend of skill development and competition. So that's kind of fun way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
In the West this year, it's going to be in Kelowna at the Kelowna Curling Club, February 27th through March 1st, 2025. Spots for 120 curlers from British Columbia, Alberta, Northwest Territories, and Yukon. Sorry, Saskatchewan, you don't count as the West. Rockfest Atlantic is going to be at the Mayflower in Halifax, March 13th to the 15th, 2025. 72 players from Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, Newfoundland, Labrador, and Prince Edward Island. Rockfest East at the North Bay Granite Club. I've been a member of the North Bay Granite Club in my day, March 21 to 23, with 72 players from Northern Ontario, Quebec, and Nunavut. And then the Prairies is going to be at the Heather Curling Club in Winnipeg with players from Manitoba and Saskatchewan. So a really fun event there. Went well last year. Players have to be between 11 and 14 to participate. If you want to qualify, you get in touch with your member association. That's why, if anybody was screaming, Sean, you said from Northern Ontario and Ontario, that's the same province, but different member association. So if you have anybody who wants to participate, it is through the member association. So you can reach out to your local member association if you have a 11 to 14-year-olds who would want to participate. Scott, we're obviously too old for this, but the way they describe it, and you did a curling camp as a youth at one point, this sounds cool. It sounds like a fun way to do it, that it's both competition skills, sort of fun ways to do it. It sounds like an interesting event that maybe not, because I wasn't super into it at that age, but you curled more as a kid. I think you probably would have enjoyed.
Yeah, for sure. I went to the Trillium Curling Camp in Guelph. I don't know what year, 2000, 2001, a long time ago. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. I got to, get coaching from some pretty high level instructors, doing drills, learning a bit, meeting other curlers is always fun. And yeah, just sort of like having a fun time on the ice and off. So this sounds really, really fun. And it coincides with the kickoff of the Briar. Is that right? Did I read that properly?
Sounds right. Yeah, out in Kelowna.
Yeah, so it's going to be the same weekend as the Briar for the one in Kelowna, and then the rest follow at later dates. So yeah, pretty cool, and they'll get a chance to like learn, play a bit, and then watch some of the championship from Kelowna. So pretty cool event.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe even get a chance to get out on that arena ice, break it in as part of the Briar.
Yeah. I remember in Ottawa there was a chance to do that before the Briar and before the trials. So yeah, hope everybody has a good time.
Yeah, and from all accounts, the first person to throw a rock on arena ice once it's ready, throw it hard because it's not going anywhere. You really got to break that ice in.
Yeah, that's the truth.
Yeah. All right. Next up, Scott. This is a little more local to us, but it is bigger to some of the issues that we've seen across the country as it relates to recreational level curling. Curl Ontario released its report on engagement, and they went across the member association and they got feedback from various stakeholders across the Curl Ontario area about how to improve the curling club experience, how to improve the business environment for clubs, really just to ensure that we're in a scenario or a situation where clubs can be solvent and continue to success. So they had 60 sessions at clubs, 41 one-on-one meetings, saying that they talked to over 300 participants with over 200 hours of listening to some of the challenges across the curling community. So the report highlights various themes that come away from these sessions, and they include improved website navigation and functionality, co-assigned to that, communication strategies, transparency and accountability, equitable practices and inclusion, facility and equipment management, attracting youth and new curlers, and revising business models and membership engagements. We have reached out to Matt Allen, who is the president of Curl Ontario, to come on, and he said he will. He's agreed to it. We haven't been able to find a time yet to talk about the report, to talk about where the implementation of some of these things is going to go. But Scott, just looking at that list of high level items, what of those stands out to you as things that really do need to be prioritized at the recreational level to ensure that curling can continue to, frankly, in some communities, just survive?
I think, yeah, it's about getting the membership, Sean, about engaging a wider base of membership. And I know we've talked about it a few times on our show, but it's about having the club or curling center really reflecting the community as a whole, and rather than just one segment of the community.
Right.
In cities like Ottawa, it I don't think that the membership necessarily reflects the makeup of the city as a whole.
No.
In smaller towns, it's more about getting the young people to come out, and your population base is smaller to begin with, so get them young, I say. get people with the curling bug young, keeping them in the game. But when it comes to cities and clubs in larger population centers, yeah, it's about getting the diversity of the area into the club and having it translate properly.
Yeah, I think especially here in Ottawa, where the two downtown clubs are, especially the
Yeah.
Rideau Curling Club, not necessarily to pick on it, but it's in Chinatown. Like that's where it is. But yeah, the population of the area doesn't necessarily play at the club. So how do you reach out to the people who are right there?
Yeah.
Similarly, at the Ottawa Curling Club where we play, it is right next to the YMCA, and there are sort of pockets of the community in the immediate area that I don't know if they necessarily feel welcome into the club, but they certainly don't see them in the club that much. So, how do we bridge that gap and ensure that it is not just for members necessarily, but really a community space? And even if you're not a member of the club, if you want to come in, hang out, have something to eat, have a drink, like we can make these spaces like that. I think that it's a mixed use space. It's not just for membership. And again, at the Rideau, not necessarily to pick on it, but it has a sign on it that says members only. Like, basically stay out to the rest of the community. I don't know if that's necessarily what you want in this day and age. And another issue I think that exists in some of the clubs that we've seen is you can get people into beginner leagues, the learn to curl things, and those do really well. The problem is the transition then from learn to curl into leagues. So where we play on Thursday night, the team that is number one on the waiting list has been number one on the waiting list for 7 or 8 years. There's just no turnover. So how do you get from that or a Colts league into a league?
Yeah.
If spots open up, individual spots open up, sometimes you get put with somebody who's not a great mix for you. It doesn't quite work out. So that is part of, I think, the challenge as well. It's not just getting people in the door, but it's keeping people once they're in the door, because that transition at some of the more popular clubs can be difficult. Or sometimes the leagues that open up are cash leagues. And, you and I have played for you longer than me, and I've been playing consistently for almost 20 years now. I don't want to go play in a cash league. I have no interest in that. So somebody who's new to the sport, that could be a disincentive for them to come play. So how does that all speak to the way in which we manage these places in terms of getting communities in? What is the cost proposition of, say, Saturdays when there's not a lot of league play on Saturdays in a lot of places? Do you open it up like almost like a bowling alley, and you can rent a sheet for an hour or two and just have it come, first serve, come out, do it? Is there enough revenue in that? Does that generate enough interest? I don't know, but these are sort of the things that are being discussed, and which is why I'm excited to have Matt on to talk about these in more detail. The other one, though, Scott, that I was intrigued by was website navigation and functionality. We have complained for a long time about certainly the World Curling Federation's website. Curling Canada's, I think, is okay. It's not terrible. It's not bad. But when you go around, if you're looking at Bonspiel's and
Yeah.
what certain clubs have. There, it really runs the gamut when you're looking around at Bondsfields of what each individual place has for a web presence. And I think that is just so important that you have to have a good one. It's easy for people to navigate, to find what you offer, because really that's how people are finding recreational activities now. So
Yeah.
that is a tough one because not everybody can code, obviously. Even if you're using a WordPress or a Squarespace, you still have to know how to do that and understand a little bit about what is attractive on a website, what will draw people in, what is user
Yeah.
friendly. Really hard to do. And that one, especially with volunteer clubs, I think that is something that is a as much as we want to get people in and keep them, that web functionality is a gap that I that's a really tough one to try to fit and fill in that gap.
Which is why if the member associations can provide that kind of support
Yeah.
to their members, that'd be really great. Because you're right, a club that's member run, volunteer run, doesn't necessarily have people with tech savvy as part of the board. Like what are they supposed to do?
Yeah.
At a certain point, you're just like, I don't know. I don't know what to do, and I don't know how to do what I don't know how to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, having those resources available is definitely a good idea. And like I say, if we work for the government, Sean, and common look and feel is really annoying when you're trying to get functionality onto different websites.
Yeah.
But it also makes it easy to navigate any site because they all sort of look and function the same. So I don't know if maybe a small association could start with saying, hey, all the club websites are going to look like this. Here's like our template. Send it to the clubs and see what can be done from that perspective. I don't know, but there's definite room for improvement when it comes to web presence.
100%. Yeah, and something's going to need to be done. So yeah, we'll look forward to talking to Matt Allen about that and a lot more with that report. The report is available publicly on the Curl Ontario site. So if you just Google engagement report Curl Ontario, you'll be able to take a look at it. It's not that long if you want to take a look at it. So encourage you to do that. All right, Scott, let's go back to Europe. Should have done this when we talked about the Euro C champions, but I didn't. So let's do it now. The site for the European A and B curling championship was announced last month. And in a cruel twist of fate for our friend Jonathan, the Euro A is going to be in Lohja, Finland. I think, Scott, Jonathan should just buy a house there at this point, or at least rent an apartment. He goes there. He has to go there a lot.
A lot, yeah. He's been there many times with the World Junior Bs and other junior Bondsfields. So home ice advantage goes to Team England, I'd say.
Yeah, so the Euro A will be there. The Euro B will be in Östersund, Sweden, at the Östersund Curling Club. The Euro A's will be at the Kisakilio Sports Institute. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And they will take place from Saturday, the 16th of November to Saturday, the 23rd of November, 2024. That is coming up very quickly. We are very excited for Jonathan and Team England in the A side for the men's, but we had that formally announced. And yes, in our little group chat with Rocks Across the Pond, we did note that it's kind of funny that that's where it's going to be. But again, it could be an advantage for him potentially. He knows that place.
Knows it well. So take any advantage you can get when you're playing Nicholas Edin, right?
Yeah, whatever you need, take it.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, Scott, we'll come back to Canada, where the 2025-2026 Canadian Wheelchair Curling Championships sites for that were announced, and it's going to be in Boucherville, Quebec for the next 2 seasons. It's at the Club de Curling de Boucherville. So they're going to be the host. They have hosted national championships, the wheelchair level, before. So 2025 will be April 28th through May the 3rd. 2026, April 27th through May the 3rd. A day longer for the 2026 version. So the wheelchair curling championship for Canada first started in 2004. So it is the 20th anniversary of that event. Scott, what I did learn from this too is that I didn't know before that Lisa Weigel is actually the communications manager for the National Wheelchair Curling Program.
Yeah, I think that was announced earlier this year, but I
Yeah.
think I knew that.
So pretty cool.
Boucherville, Sean, is very close to Montreal.
Okay.
It's like a suburb.
Okay. So it's kind of like going to Montreal.
A little bit. I mean, they would probably argue that no, it's not, but
Right.
It's like sort of close.
Right. So it's kind of like when they do the Oakville, the Stu Sells Oakville, but they also do the Stu Sells Toronto in Oakville.
In Oakville. Yeah.
Okay.
Similar. Similar.
Yeah. All right, Scott, we also got an announcement for some of the people who will be playing in that as the 2024-2025 National Wheelchair Curling Program announced the athletes who qualified for this year. Some familiar names on that list, but also some new names for the National Wheelchair Senior Program. We'll just go through them real quick. We got Gilbert Dash from Wolseley, Saskatchewan, Douglas Dean from Thunder Bay, Ontario, Ina Forrest, a longtime member of the team, Armstrong, British Columbia, Jillian Hopkins from Toronto, Mark Idison from Ilderton, a longtime skip of the National Wheelchair team, Kalinda Joseph from Ottawa, Chrissy Molnar from Trent Lakes, Ontario, Dennis Thiessen, another longtime member of the team, multi-time Paralympian from Sanford, Manitoba, John Thurston, again, multi-time Paralympian from Dunsford, Ontario, and Marie Wright from Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan. Again, multi-world championships for sure for Marie Wright. I think at least one Paralympics. I don't know if it's two. So we got those. And then we have 5 athletes to the 2024-2025 Next Gen program for the wheelchair program. Carl Allen from Keene, Ontario, Sarah Benavides, Chance Harbor, New Brunswick, Leanne Kyer from Port Robinson, Ontario, Terry Fowler from Cochrane, Ontario, and Reed Mulligan here in Ottawa, where he's from. So congratulations to all them on being named. We'll see, Scott, how the season plays out, what the 5 people end up being for the World Championships. You would expect some of those familiar names, but I do like the Next Gen program is there. They can all work together, build up that program, because as we talked about many, many times on the show, that Chinese program is quite a hill to try to get over. So you really do have to pool your resources, develop everybody together, because that program is the pinnacle right now, and to overtake them going into the Paralympics in a couple of years, it's going to be a challenge.
Definitely. That's the real Everest that they're trying to climb. And by ensuring that there's a pipeline makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah. So as we say, congratulations to all of those players. And Scott, that does it for the news update. Is there anything that I've missed that you wanted to talk about? I have one other thing that's not curling related, but something that you asked me to do on the show, and I haven't done it yet.
Oh yeah, that's right. Real quick, Sean, I don't know if you saw, I was away, and when I go away, I don't tend to go on social media a lot. Mm-hmm. But I saw our friends Lori and Mary getting a bit of hate online, and I wanted to just talk about it for a second.
Sure.
Lori and Mary, they don't like, they're so nice. I wouldn't say that they're hating anybody, and so when they're saying things on their podcast, it's just them saying things that they would say to each other. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's kind of like us, right? We just sort of talk, say things. Sometimes they sound better than others. So, you know, sort of, it's all seemed to come out of nowhere and was a bit of piling on. And I was a little disappointed in the community for that. So I'm going to say that I offer support to them. Listen to their podcast because it's alphabetically the first one in my list. So it often comes up. But yeah, I was just a little disappointed by some of that. They're really nice, and they do what they do and it's not for everybody, but it's a pretty good reflection on the fan experience of curling with a little insider info there.
Yeah,
Did you have
I mean
anything to say?
they love the sport as much, if not more than anybody else. They love the teams, they love the players, they love everything about the sport. So yeah, I don't really have much else to add other than that. And yeah, I don't really like the piling on that we saw.
Mhm.
And whatever, like it is what it is. So we love Mary and Lori, and that's sort of what we have to say all about that. All right, Scott,
Let's do
ready?
it.
Ready for this? All right, so Scott, I have not watched this. You sent this to me, but promised that I wouldn't watch it because you wanted me to watch it live on the show. You were in New York. You were at NBC Studios. So what is this?
So Sean, you're right. I was in New York, and I went to the NBC studios, and just out of nowhere, they kind of like offered me this job. So
Wow.
why don't we play the clip, and you
Yeah.
can see what might be the start of my brand new career.
Okay. All right. So I'm hitting play, and here we go. Nice little chime. I like that.
I don't remember the sound.
Live from NBC Studios in Rockefeller Center in the heart of New York City, it's The Tonight Show, starring Jimmy Fallon and Charlie. Tonight's guest is Eliana, featuring the 30 Rock and Rollers. I'm Scott, and here are your hosts, Jimmy Fallon and
Wow.
Charlie.
Wow, Scott, who's Charlie?
Charlie is filling in for Jimmy Fallon.
It seems like only a few minutes ago you were a tourist wandering the halls of this historic
Can we
building.
get a little banter?
You're right, because I was, ladies and gentlemen. Give it up for Scott.
Thank you. How you doing, Charlie?
I am fantastic. We got a great show tonight.
Wow, okay. So that's you doing your Higgins impression, Scott.
So as soon as it's there's no more me after Charlie.
Well, you got a rim shot there.
I did, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and I couldn't help but notice another face there. I obviously did hear it, but a face that I recognized in the band.
Yeah, I was in the band, so it was fun.
That's pretty cool. So how did you get selected as the announcer?
Well, as part of the tour, everybody is encouraged to do something, but I just thought, with my podcasting background, being the announcer really made a lot of sense.
Sure.
I understand that Charlie is never going to listen to this or hear it. A little stiff, I'd say. His performance was a little stiff. I guess when you're like 14 years old or however old he was that's kind of how you are. But
yeah.
I feel like I really
not the strongest on-camera presence there.
Yeah.
Kept his headphones around his neck. Not great.
Not great. Yeah.
How was I'll watch the whole thing eventually, maybe. How was Elena as the guest?
Better than Charlie, but they were siblings. So
okay. Nice.
Yeah. There was some sort of, I couldn't tell if he was making fun of her intentionally or not, but anyway, it was pretty fun.
Right. So did they give you that line of it seems like only a few minutes ago you were a tourist on the tour, or did you was that an improv?
It was all scripted.
Okay.
I was reading from the prompter. Did my best, but did my best to make it seem natural. Right?
Yeah. Does the band come back later in the video, or were they just standing there at the start and that's?
Yeah, no, they get some questions asked of them, but I think it's Charlie's mother or grandmother that gets asked or answers the questions.
All right. Well, very cool, Scotty. Well, congratulations. I guess you can negotiate with the production team on your revised salary now that you're a big star. You've made it in the U.S.
Big time star on NBC. Yeah.
So there you go. So that's sort of all the news here. in the world of curling and on the show with Scott's new gig. So that'll be it for this week. Thanks so much for listening, everybody. If you have not yet, please do subscribe wherever you get your shows, likes, comments, rates, all that other stuff. Helps keep the show growing. Head on over to GameOfStonesPod.com. All the past episodes are there, plus a link to the merch. And you can follow us on socials at Game of Stones Pod, Game of Stones Podcast on Facebook. Let us know what you want to hear on the show, Game of Stones Podcast at gmail.com. Scott, as I said, it is Father's Day as we record this. I'll see if I can get it out tonight. If not, it'll be the day after Father's Day. What sort of Father's Day traditions? We didn't really have any growing up with our father, did we?
No, I don't think so. But my favorite is what Tony Kornheiser says, is that all he wants for Father's Day is to be able to play golf on Mother's Day.
Yes.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, that's a good one. So happy Father's Day, Dad, when you listen to this, not on Father's Day, but the sentiment is there. And we'll try to, we'll give him a call later, and we're going to see him in a few weeks. So
That's right.
there you go. So happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. Hope you're having a good one, a safe one, and enjoying your summer. We'll be back with you very soon as we get through the summer season before curling returns. But of course, as we're doing that, as always, keep those brooms on the ice and don't dump that intern.
Make the final.